stay for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. I wanna tell of the world with you. Down on creation and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love with me at the top of the world. One more time. The top of the world again. Down on creation and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love for me at the top of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel and Shinwan. Isn't it wonderful when our young people are multifaceted? They can save the world, they can also be entertainers.
6. Oh, how nice.
Okay.
Very good.
That officially opens our second day of the Women's Federation for World Peace International Advocacy Training. And to take us to the ground and to make sure that we are really making a meaningful change in the world, we need to measure our success. And to give you the formula to do just that, one of the trailblazers in Women's Federation's best practices for measuring the success of your program is our Women's Federation for World Peace USA president, and she's also the regional president of North America, and the new Women's Federation for World Peace International vice president for programs, Ms. Kaylee Moffett. And I'll introduce her a little bit more. Ms. Kaylee Moffett is the, well, I mentioned that already, the new VP for programs. She holds a bachelor's degree in business operations management and family science from the University of Maryland, as well as a master's degree in peace studies from the HJ International School for Peace and Public Leadership. Kaylee is a proud wife and a mother of 3 young children and feels as if she can be successful at that. She will have contributed to making a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Kaylee Moffett. Hi, everybody. Shin, please assist me.
It's not that. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here yesterday, but I'm in the building now. Happy to be with all of you. Thank you for coming from so far. We're going to have to be flexible with the technology today because I was hoping I could have it up here because I'd like to go through a few different tabs and websites and things like that. But we're going to make it work. So we'll bring up my slides. What I want to talk about today is some of the things that I feel like we broke through, especially in the last year, in terms of how to set goals that are both qualitative and quantitative. And in particular, you know, as women, our natural tendency is to think about how to make things really meaningful and impactful. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out how to make that quantitative. How do you turn a really meaningful program that you've been doing that is making a difference in people's lives? How do you turn that into something you can measure with numbers? Okay, how to do this? Um, can you see me over here? Okay. Can you go to this slide? This tab. You know, in my children's school, they have like touch screens like this where you can move things along. We're not quite there yet.
That's our next project, Amy.
You and me both. I don't know how to set that up. Okay, so in the USA, these are the three areas that we focus on. So we have women, leadership, and peace building. And these are the three, all of our programs can kind of fit into these three different areas. Okay, all right. Okay, I have a light. Let's see if that helps us at all. And while these are very meaningful and impactful ideas, you know, I can break these down. Can you expand it? Do you know how to use Canva? Okay, we'll just go to the next slide, yes. So I can spell it out like this, what these kinds of programs look like in our Working with Women, where it's about building communities where women can be supported in awakening to the best version of themselves. And that sounds wonderful, right? I see head nods in the room. It seems inspiring, but it doesn't always translate into the quantitative goals. And so what we worked on this year, if you can go up to this one. Yes. Maybe zoom in a bit, because I'm sure you can't see any of that. You can press the Control plus a few times. Okay, you can go to view, you can change this. Yeah, you go to 200. Okay, that's good. Don't worry, because it doesn't really make sense to you, but I want to give you an example of how we've kind of turned this into measuring and quantitative goals. So those three areas that I'm really focusing on, I work with my team to talk about what that looks like, both for our internal, what we would say internal, the qualitative experience of these programs, but also these external quantitative areas. So we work in quarters, and so each quarter we kind of look at what's the big goal that we're trying to accomplish. How do we want to take these programs to the next level? And then we also want to talk about how do we measure that. So in particular, what I want us to be paying attention to is down here. We launched last year what's a program called Her Tribe. This is a monthly women's group that Women's Federation leaders host. We offer a curriculum that people can use. It's a gathering of women where we read some of our peace philosophy, we have activities, we have discussion, and it's a chance for us to support women in our growth and empowerment as becoming the best versions of ourselves. So we made a goal of launching 25 tribes by the end of the year. And we split that up, so each quarter has a goal. And each quarter we're checking in to see how are we doing. And I was really surprised we did very well. You can see it's all green, right? And we made all our goals last year. We also were measuring our meetups, which is the number of meetings happening in tribes. And you can see we almost made the goal, but for the most part we did for the year. And we were in the red for this one. The last thing that we were measuring in this area is attendees. And you can see that one, we blew through that goal, which was really surprising. We made a goal of over 700 women who were touched by Her Tribe. We reached over 1,000. Now, the way that that works, if you can go to this tab down here, Her Tribe Tracking. See this tab down here? Yeah. Okay. You can zoom out a little bit to see. Yeah, perfect. So this is a list of all of the different chapters in each of our states who are doing Her Tribe activities. And what I have is my team is checking in each month with these chapter leaders to say, did you have your Her Tribe meeting? How did it go? How many people came? What was your feedback like? And we also ask them to submit a report, which I'll show you in a minute. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this, it doesn't like you. Oh, because you're using a map, it goes the other way. So instead of scrolling down, you scroll yeah. It's really counterintuitive. Okay, sorry, go back up. Okay, here. So are you familiar with Google Sheets? It's like Excel, but it's online. And what's wonderful about the Google products is that your team can work on them live together. So my whole team is putting in this data and we're looking at it together. This automatically will tally for me how it's going. So if you were to click on any one of these boxes down here in the gray, you're using a magnet, it's so confusing, right? Oh, you want to put it? Okay, okay. If you were to pull up one of these boxes down here, yeah, that's good, that's fine. You can see that there's some kind of equation up at the top. So it's automatically tallying for me. If one of my team puts in Las Vegas had 8 people who came, then it will automatically tally all the people who came to the event for the month. And I know that's kind of maybe challenging to think about if you've never used this kind of software before. But I promise you, if you just go on YouTube and you ask how to use Google Sheets, it will show you simple things like this. It's one of the most beneficial tools that you can use. It's free, available for everybody, and it's what saves me from all the trouble of manually having to tally this each month. So if we go back to the first tab on the bottom, yep, I will just quickly run through. So in our Global Women's Peace Network, things that we're measuring is the number of initiatives, which means programs and projects that are happening in communities. We again blew through these goals. The goal was 50 and we made it to 75. And the reason why I want to say this is important is because in each of my meetings with my teams, I would talk about these goals every time. And I would reiterate, this is where we are on our goals. And we would call our teams to check in on them. We would ask them the questions. How many projects did you do this month? How many of our books did you give out? How many new women leaders did you connect with? How many of them became members, paying members of Women's Federation? These are the kinds of things that we were measuring. And because we were talking about it all the time, our leaders became familiar with it and knew what we were working towards. On the last one, if we just scroll down, this, one more up, a little bit more up, this one. A little more, good, okay. We also were measuring how much we were giving. And so, if I showed you a third tab, we were measuring how much money we were raising for our Schools of Africa project and also how much money we were giving locally. Now, if you can go on the very top, the WWP top victories, yes. And go to slide 13, it's at the bottom. Keep going. Next one. That one, good. Now, what's great about this kind of data is that when I make my monthly reports and my end of year reports, I have quantitative data that I can show people that I'm working with. And it's really compelling. It makes a difference. For instance, when I'm trying to fundraise for my organization and trying to raise money to support us, I show them a slide like this, and it's very impactful. And I can talk about what that means. We had 70 community initiatives. We partnered with other organizations to do these. We welcomed 100 new women into our network. We gave out 60 Her Story awardees, which is one of our projects. And we distributed 70 of our memoirs, which we use as the foundation of our peace building education. These are the kinds of quantitative data that make a huge difference to be able to show people the impact that we're making. And if we can't put numbers to it, if I just said to you, we're doing community initiatives and we do Her Story awards and we give out memoirs and we are working with women leaders, it's not as impactful as if I could put a number to it. And I can show you the data behind how we're measuring this. It takes a lot of management and thinking, but it's absolutely worth it and tells a much more compelling story. Okay, we can escape out of this. And the Can you go to that one? Yes, perfect. So this is our USA website. And one of the things I want to show you is something that's been very helpful for us. It's very small for you over there, but there's a member menu on our website. This is something we recently developed to be able to add more benefits to those who are paying members of our organizations. They now have access to resources and education and recordings of things that other people do not have. But we also added here our leaders resources. It's the second one. Yep, one more up. That one, yep. And these are for our WWP leaders. The reason why I'm showing you this is if you click this big yellow button, it says send in your report. This is the report that our women leaders are filling out every month. And when you get to the second slide, the second page, which you can't get to without filling it out, it has all the numerical data that people are putting into. So it's building a system and building a process so it makes your life easier. Now, I know that was a lot of big picture and maybe complicated thinking, but I want to plant those seeds because the more that we use these kinds of tools that are out there, especially in the internet and with AI, it's really going to make our lives so much easier to compile reports. But what I now want to walk you through is just the simple practice of trying to put the numeric value to your qualitative goals. I know that many of you already have projects that you're looking on and things that you're inspired about. Maybe you heard some things yesterday that gave you more clarification and excitement about what you want to do as you prepare to go back home. And so what I want to ask you to do is pick one of those. What's one of the projects or one of the programs or one of the goals that you have to work on, and choose one, the one maybe that inspires you the most, that touches your heart the most. Let's take a minute and choose that one. Everybody have one in mind? Raise your hand if you have one in mind. That probably means everybody else is not paying attention. Okay, if you have one in mind, I want you to write that down on a piece of paper. You have paper? Warm. Anybody else?
So cold yesterday. So
It's the opposite today.
warm today. Today is summer, yes, I was there.
I see. You
Okay.
get all the seasons. No, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't want you to be.
Okay. Now underneath that, I want you to try to think of 2 or 3 quantitative goals that help you measure the impact of that program. There's no wrong answers. And if you're not familiar with this kind of thinking, it might take a while, but it's the exercise that really matters here is how do we translate these programs into practical things? Maybe it's a number of people, maybe it's the number of media coverage, maybe it's government officials who are involved, maybe it's fundraising efforts, maybe it's a number of people who fill out a survey and say this was a 10 out of 10 program. However you envision it, and you want to think about what numbers are going to impact most when you make a report, when you share about the impact that you're making. We'll do that for a few minutes, and then we're going to share with the person next to us. No, it's okay. I think some people are still thinking. I can see them thinking on their papers. Okay, take 30 more seconds just to finish jotting down a few ideas of how to turn your project into a quantitative and measurable outcome. And now you can turn to the person next to you and share your program or project idea and how you might measure that.
I measure podcast or or over 1,000 likes when I just posted. I don't know how to yeah. So that's a measurable thing. Like they don't I have that person. I don't have that as like start to change. So still likes especially reach okay, the next is so that's okay. And one more, I might look at my clients. Yeah, that's how I measure the content of that. I have PDFs. That's how I see it. Like how is this about? So that's my experience.
Yes. Yeah. If they go to go.
Okay, take another 30 seconds to finish up your discussion.
It was very sorry. Yeah.
All right, thank you, partner. And maybe give them a high five and say, you can do it. I believe in you. Nobody said it. I saw Lily, so thank you. So I'm hoping that maybe there's a brave two people in the room who might be willing to share briefly what they just discussed, what their project or program that they envision is, and how they might consider quantitatively measuring that program. Is there anybody who's feeling brave enough to do so? You can raise your hand.
Kelly, I have a little bit different approach.
I have a little bit different approach, and my mind goes in a direction, and as a techie, logical, hard-based person, I can't help it. So I was looking at your reporting form, and you mentioned about quantitative goals. So my two cents here are the when we do an outreach of the few key goals, let's say we had 70 initiatives, and we look at within the community, say top five. So when we're doing outreach, I'm looking at how does that aligns with SDGs? How does that align with the ground force that we have, resources available, and how do we really implement that aligns both ways to the community and to the higher goal? The second part was that I live in New Jersey and New York, two neighboring countries, we are known as the sanctuary cities. And you talk to council people or mayors or so, and there's new, well, it's not so new, but the new problem is that they are challenged with the recent mandate for being sanctuary city with their impacted. My mind went, I couldn't help it. When we talk about families, and these communities are families that provide critical services to our families. And how does this disrupt the local community? And what kind of initiatives that we have would cater to these or not cater to these? And I'm always, as a professional role that I am, I always look for input. I'm always asking questions in such a way that I draw the maximum from minimum. And my thing would be if we reach out to communities and we ask them what challenges they're facing, do we have resources, knowledge, or uh, boots on the ground to tailor to that? Or it doesn't fit in? If it doesn't fit in, but we discover a new problem, where do we go with that problem? So that's where I ended.
Let's give her a round of applause. Being brave enough. So I heard 2 points there too that I think maybe could be relevant for others. The first one is one of the goals is looking at how many of our projects and programs align with SDGs. And that's something to look at and research and see where is the alignment. That could certainly be turned into a data point. And then the second point that you brought up is very interesting because how that could be used is that's some preliminary numbers that you're kind of doing research on. What is the issue? And how many people are not being served? And then maybe by implementing this program, how many people have been served? And so it shows a growth from that kind of research and data points. So very good, awesome thinking. I know you're the queen of that anyway, so she could have given the presentation. Is there one more person who's feeling brave enough who would like to share? Yes, thank you. This side of the room is very brave.
Hello, I'm from Wfwp Taiwan, and the program I write is Young Woman Leadership Program, and I'm with the AB. So we separate it into the quantitative indicator and also the qualitative indicator. So for the quantitative part, we can use how many people apply for the program and how many percent of them finish the training program. And also how many people view our posts related to the activity on the social media. And for the qualitative part, we want to use two indicators involved, like how many women more involved in the gender issues through our program. And also they expand the network and learn from the role model. So we want to decide a survey like for from score 1 to 10, how many percent you change from our program. So we can get the representative by 80% of the young women join our program. They have increased 20% of their knowledge, to involve more in the gender issue.
Give her a round of applause. I know Taiwan is doing also amazing work. So maybe if you're not these two ladies, this concept is a little overwhelming sometimes, but I do want to encourage everybody to just try. Just try one measurable impact. Oh, we have one. Sure.
Oh, thank you. This is very interesting.
Do you want to stand up so we can all see you? Oh, I'm so sorry. I just walked in the room. I'm so sorry.
Okay. My example right here is called WEP, Women Employment, no, Women Economic Employment, Empowerment. It's clear, WEE,
Yes.
Women Economic Empowerment. That's the way I want to develop in terms of helping women anyway. So we call it economic empowerment program. And the measurement or the measurement index will include the following. First one, labor force participation rate of women. So if it's increasing, that means our program in terms of women economic empowerment is very successful. And second measurement is earnings, income, and wealth comes increasing rate. So if the woman's income increasing because of our economic program, then we say this is a successful program. And the third one, which I would be very interested to see how is the law will be quantitative, legal or institutional law has been developed. That means, is there any Gender Equality Act has been formulated in society, or gender, or what we call wage, minimum wage protection law has been developed? So this is something we call qualitative measurement. So I think that just think about something like this.
Yes, those are amazing. Big round of applause. And what's interesting about those is I can also see them being correlated to each other. As you build one, the other also grows. And that's what you want to see, that you're making small impact that has more impact down the road in the bigger areas. It's really interesting thinking. Thank you. So the last thing that I want to end with here before maybe if there are questions, I can answer them. But I want to use this slide as an example because I'm pushing here the quantitative measurable impact, which I really have seen for myself is much more convincing for somebody, especially for me when I'm doing fundraising. Many people know Women's Federation and the idea, but when I can sit down with them and I can show them the measurable impact, they're much more willing to maybe become a member or support us or get involved. But if we only have the external numbers, it's not our way, actually, Women's Federation. We also need this qualitative impact. And so most of the time when I make reports or I'm trying to make some kind of plea, I will include both. And so this is a quote from one of her tribe posts. And she said, I didn't understand the impact of how important this was until we started talking together. These her tribe gatherings are a time for women to relax, center ourselves, feel empowered by Mother Moon's words, and then go out into the world and do what we need to do. And you hear something like that, and that's very moving, right? Your heart is touched by that. And then I can back it up with the data. We have started with 0 tribes at the beginning of the year, and we launched 25 of them. And we have 70% of them who are next generation leaders. This is 45 and younger, which is also very compelling for people. And 10% are not Women's Federation members. So they're learning about our organization and becoming paying members as a product of this kind of program that we're hosting each month in our local communities. So when you match those two together, the qualitative impact and the quantitative impact, then it really makes such a compelling argument for fundraising. It also shows people the depth of our impact. We're doing projects, but we're also touching people's hearts and we're changing them from the inside out, which is our culture of women's federation. So that is my brief presentation on how to bring it down to the earth, how to measure it, how to show the impact. Merely, shall I take questions?
Yes, please. You have 15
I have 15 minutes,
or 13.
13 to be exact. Thank you. Are there any questions or maybe comments on this?
It's a question you can see here. Because I saw on the slide, consistency within a core. And I'm wondering, is that measurable? Or if it is, how do you measure that?
So she read all the notes that were up there that maybe not everybody else could see back there. It said consistency within a core. Actually, that was part of my qualitative section. It could have been quantitative, but it wasn't. And what that meant for me is we were starting her tribe, and I had a few leaders who were ready to try it, but I needed them to have extra support to get it going. So I was focusing on those 5, for instance, personally investing and calling and seeing how it's going. I visited some of those communities. But if I wanted to do that, then I think maybe that would be just consistency at a meeting or how often am I communicating with them so that the momentum could be built. Because what was interesting about that is once you have those 5 who are having very moving experiences, I use those testimonies to then share with others. And it was very compelling for them to then begin a new program.
Because I was thinking it was more like consistency with the inner core of our programs. And are we kind of diverting from what we're supposed to be doing? Or are we actually staying on track? And is that measurable?
I mean, it's an interesting point. Maybe one thing that we discovered along the way when we were doing this, especially launching these kind of quantitative goals, which was new for our team, is every week when we had our weekly meetings, we were checking in both on the internal and on the external. So we were reminding, what is the internal purpose of what we're doing, and then also externally this week, how much progress did we make? And so you could say that's measurable. How often we're talking about it, maybe. More than that, I don't know how you would measure it. But it's an interesting concept. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment or question?
No, I'm from Taiwan. I really like the idea about the quantity data. I'm just want to give some feedback. Is it like a template you can share to other team? Because it's not only apply to the fundraising, it also apply for the personal job or work. Yeah, it's really great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you're not the only person to ask me this. I think Paris, you suggested I make a template also. Once we get clear, yes, I'm so happy to share something like this. The one trouble is that it's very unique to my goals and what I'm working on. But if maybe on an international level, we're clear on these 4 goals and then what we're suggesting as a measurable impact, then I can develop a template. And it's very easy because it's Google Sheets, anybody can use it. So President Hori, let's work on it. And I'm happy to share it. And then maybe you can send it out if I can get it together. Yeah. And you're right, it can apply, on the big organizational level, but also personally. What are your goals that you're working on? I have a friend who's a coach, like a personal coach. What is those called? Like a mentoring kind of coach. And he has a whole system like this. That's your personal goals. Did you do this goal today and this week? And you check it off and it turns green when you've reached your goal, that kind of stuff. So it's very rewarding to see the progress you're making personally as well. Great, thank you. Maybe one more question if there's anything, or just a comment?
I have a question. If in your mind when you organize this, systematically putting qualitative and quantitative information, are you also thinking of putting it out publicly through social media so that your voices are inspiring to the others? and it can solidify your credibility as, enhancers of women leadership. On the side of the media, we want stories like this, especially coming from the actors on the ground. So do you put that in mind too? Like, quantitative information is very important to us from the perspective of media practitioners.
That's a really good feedback point. I would say I have not done that this year. But I take that as a note of how to incorporate into social media. Maybe just to share where I've come with social media is I worked for the last year, kind of developing our brand. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And more on the qualitative side. So voices and people and stories. But it's true that we haven't done any posts that are related to the quantitative impact. So it's almost like I failed. You're right, I'm giving a presentation, but I didn't match it to how we're projecting ourselves in social media. So I take that as a lesson and good feedback for me, and we can do better. Thank you for that. Yeah. Let's give that a round of applause because I learned in my own presentation, which is fantastic. Okay. Any more dying questions that need to be answered? All right, Merle, thank you so much for the chance to share. I'm happy to meet you in this setting and then meet you more closely as the day goes on. I'll pass it back to Merle.
Thank you very much, Kaylin. Let us give her one more big round of applause. That was amazing. I mean, every time I listen to Kelly, I take a mental note. I got to do that. I have to put this. She's very technical at the same time. That qualitative and quantitative, and the Google Notes, Google Docs. I am Gen X, so I am learning. I am learning. So technology is upon us. We really can't get away from it. Even if you want to avoid it, you'll need it every second. So we have to coexist with it, which is very exciting. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes till break, but I think the next session is big. And even last night, even last minute, someone asked me, like even before getting the elevator, how can we prepare for tomorrow? So Carolyn, they're taking this very seriously. They mentally prepare. And I hope you were able to get a good sleep last night because some of them, I think, already thinking what to say and how they can prepare well. And maybe some didn't have yet a clear understanding. So, yeah, so 30 minutes break. We have a long coffee break, okay? 30 minutes and then ask around and come back. When you come back, you'll be sitting behind the name of your country. And Carolyn, you want to say something or just later I'll give it to you? Okay. All right. So enjoy your break, get some good coffee, and come back in 30 minutes. 10:25. 10:25. Please come back 10:25. Yes. Mhm.